Hey there, Mr. Wilford here. Just wanted to go through Chapter 5, Section 7 with you a little bit, solving quadratic inequalities. And there are actually two kinds of inequalities that we're going to look at in this section. The first one is fairly easy because if you have a good graphing calculator, you should have no problem graphing these. As an example here, graphing y is less than a negative 2x squared minus 4x plus 6. The best way to do this is to have a graphing calculator, use a graphing calculator, and just graph the parabola. Now if you have a graphing calculator, typically if it's less than, what you're looking at is shading below the graph, and if it would be greater than, then we're looking at shading above the graph. And I can show you that in a couple different ways here as far as graphing that using a graphing calculator. This is a graphing calculator that I like to use. It's from our textbook. And if we're supposed to graph an inequality less than, that's what the example shows there. You can see here it graphs the parabola for us and it's shaded inside. If it was greater than, then let's look at how that would look. So now we're shading above the graph. Sometimes we talk about the vertex point, and if it's less than, we shade below the vertex point. If it's greater than, we shade above the vertex point. So that's one kind of problem that you're going to see. Let me go back here to the notes. Another kind of problem that we're going to see will look something like this. And we're solving an inequality by comparing it to 0 and then testing between the roots and graph the solution. So the very first thing that you would want to do with these two equations here, and I'll actually show you the second one, is you would set this equal to 0. So what we would do is subtract 3 to both sides, and we would have x squared minus 6x plus 5 greater than 0. So we're comparing the quadratic to 0. And whenever we have a quadratic that is greater than 0, as an example, we can again use our graphing calculator. What we're looking for really are the roots, and we're going to test between the roots, which means we look on both sides of each of the roots, really testing between each root, and wherever the graph goes up is going to be part of our solution. So let me go back to the graphing calculator. And let me get rid of this one. And this is the problem that I just showed you. If I press graph, what we would look at here are the roots. The roots, remember, are where the parabola crosses the x-axis. So we have a root there and there. And you could zoom in and move your cursor around to find exactly out where those roots are. Just to kind of go through some approximations here, this would be like negative 0.9, and let's call this 6.9, for example. Because we're trying to figure out, let me go back quick, where in this second problem, where this would be greater than 0, what we're looking for is where the parabola is going above the x-axis. So it's going above the x-axis on the left side of this root and the right side of this root. So our answer would be something like this. X would be less than a negative 0.9. So less than means these numbers here would put the graph up, greater than 0. And then x greater than 1, or I'm sorry, x greater than 6.9, that also would make the graph go up. You can see here that these values inside between the roots would make the parabola go down below the x-axis. So greater than, we're looking for where the graph goes above the x-axis, and you have to define the x values accordingly. So again, with some of these problems, you know, the graphing part isn't too bad. The solving for the inequality, again, you want to use your graphing calculator, but you have to be able to read it a little bit more. Your graphing calculator will help you quite a bit. Of course, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.